The chamber was larger than any stadium on Earth. Ambassador James Cole stood at its center, feeling smaller than he had ever felt in his entire life. Around him, rising in endless tiers that disappeared into the shadows above, sat the representatives of 1,200 alien species. Some had scales that gleamed like diamonds. Others floated in tanks of strange liquids. A few existed as clouds of glowing particles, their forms shifting with every passing second. This was the Galactic Council, the supreme governing body of known space. And humanity had just been summoned to face judgment. Cole could feel the weight of countless eyes upon him. His translator implant buzzed constantly, struggling to process the whispered conversations happening in hundreds of different languages. Words like primitive, dangerous, and mistake reached his ears again and again. The High Arbiter, a creature of pure crystal that stood 30 feet tall, raised one shimmering arm. Silence fell across the chamber like a heavy blanket. Species designation human, the Arbiter's voice echoed through the hall, translated simultaneously into every known language. You stand before this council, accused of unauthorized expansion into protected space. You have established colonies in the Orion Corridor without permission. You have developed weapons technology beyond your authorized level. How do you answer these charges? Cole took a deep breath. He had practiced this moment 1,000 times. Everything depended on what he said next. We answer with a question, he said, his voice steady despite his racing heart. In 400 years of space travel, humanity has never once been contacted by this council. We were never told the rules existed. How can we be guilty of breaking laws we never knew about? A murmur rippled through the chamber. Several alien representatives shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Cole noticed that the Arbiter's crystal form flickered slightly, a sign of surprise. Ignorance is not a defense, declared a massive insectoid creature from the upper tiers. Every species must submit to council authority upon reaching interstellar capability. This is the first law. A law written in languages we could not read, stored in databases we could not access, enforced by powers that refused to reveal themselves. Cole replied. We did not ignore the council. The council ignored us. The chamber erupted in chaos. Alien voices shouted accusations and demands. Several species called for immediate punishment. Others argued among themselves about procedures and precedents. But Cole had achieved his goal. He had planted doubt. The Arbiter restored order with a pulse of blinding light. The council will deliberate. The human delegation will be confined to their vessel until a verdict is reached. As guards escorted Cole from the chamber, he allowed himself a small smile. Humanity had bought itself time. Not much, perhaps a few days at most. But time was all they needed, because Earth had a secret. A terrible secret that Cole prayed they would never have to use. 3 days passed aboard the human diplomatic vessel. Cole spent most of that time in communication with Earth, receiving updates from Director Helena West, the woman who held humanity's fate in her hands. The council is divided, West reported through the encrypted channel. Our intelligence suggests that at least 300 species want to give us a chance. But the ruling coalition, the ones who control the military, they have already decided. What is their decision? Cole asked, though he already knew the answer. West's face was grim. Extermination. They are calling it the Purification Protocol. 60 warships are being assembled as we speak. They will reduce Earth to ash within the week. Cole felt his blood run cold. Then we have no choice. No, West agreed. We do not. I have already given the order to unseal Vault Omega. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Vault Omega was humanity's darkest secret, buried beneath the Antarctic ice for nearly 50 years. Inside it lay something that the first explorers had discovered in the depths of space. Something so powerful and so dangerous that every government on Earth had agreed to lock it away forever, until now. Do you understand what this means? Cole asked quietly. Once we open that vault, there is no going back. The scientists who originally found it, they warned us. They said it would change humanity forever. I know what they said, West replied. But I also know what the Council intends to do. They will kill every man, woman, and child on our planet. They will erase our species from existence, simply because we had the courage to reach for the stars. She leaned closer to the camera, her eyes burning with determination. Whatever is in that vault, whatever price we have to pay, it cannot be worse than extinction. At least this way, we survive. At least this way, we fight back. Cole wanted to argue. He wanted to remind her of the warnings, of the terrible visions that had haunted the original Discovery team. But he could not, because deep down, he knew she was right. When will it be opened? He asked. In 6 hours. I want you back on Earth when it happens. Leave now, Ambassador. Your diplomatic mission is over. The communication ended. Cole sat alone in his quarters, staring at the stars through his viewport. Somewhere out there, 60 warships were preparing to destroy his home. Somewhere below the ice of Antarctica, something ancient was about to wake, and humanity was about to become something new. He gathered his belongings and made his way to the shuttle bay. The council guards watched him go, their alien faces unreadable. They thought they had already won. They thought humanity would simply accept its fate. They had no idea what was coming as the shuttle launched toward Earth. Cole looked back at the massive council station one last time. Soon, very soon, those 1,000 species would learn the truth about humanity. They would learn that pushing humans to the edge of extinction was the worst mistake they had ever made. Because when humanity fought back, the entire galaxy would tremble. The shuttle entered faster than light travel, racing toward Earth, racing toward destiny, racing toward the moment when everything would change. In 6 hours. Vault Omega would open. In 6 hours. Humanity would face a choice between death and transformation. And in 6 hours. The Galactic Council would discover that some prey is far more dangerous than any predator. The countdown had begun. The frozen wasteland. Antarctica stretched endlessly in every direction. Dr. Victor. Nash stood at the entrance to Vault Omega, his breath forming clouds in the bitter cold. Behind him, a team of 50 scientists and soldiers waited in silence, their faces pale with fear and anticipation. 50 years ago, the first deep space explorers had found something drifting between galaxies. It was not a ship. It was not a natural phenomenon. It was a gateway, a tier in the fabric of reality itself. And through that gateway, they had made contact with something that defied all understanding. The entity had called itself the Eternal Hunger. It existed in a dimension where thought and matter were the same thing. It offered humanity unlimited power, the ability to reshape reality with mere intention. But it demanded something in return. That it wanted to bond with human consciousness. It wanted to become one with the human species, forever. The original explorers had refused. They had sealed the gateway in this vault and sworn to never open it again. The visions they had experienced, the glimpses of what humanity might become, had terrified them beyond words. But now, with extinction approaching from the stars, humanity had no other options. Director Helena West appeared on the holographic display beside Nash. Her expression was hard as stone. The Council fleet has launched, she reported. 60 warships. They will reach Earth in approximately 47 hours. Nash nodded slowly. Then we proceed. He placed his palm on the biometric scanner. Ancient machinery hummed to life, mechanisms that had been dormant for half a century. The massive vault door began to slide open, revealing nothing but absolute darkness within. And from that darkness, a voice spoke. It did not use sound. It spoke directly into the minds of everyone present. A cold and ancient presence that pressed against their thoughts. Like ice water. You have returned. I knew you would. Your kind always does. In the end. Nash felt his legs weaken. The voice was vast beyond imagining, older than stars, deeper than the void between galaxies. He forced himself to stand straight. We need your help, he said aloud. Our species faces destruction. I know. I have watched. I have waited. And now you come to me, seeking salvation. Yes, Nash admitted. Whatever the cost. The darkness seemed to pulse with something. That might have been amusement. The cost is simple. I will merge with your species. Every human being will carry a fragment of my consciousness. You will gain power beyond your comprehension, but you will never, again, be alone in your own minds. Around the world, 7 billion people suddenly felt a presence at the edge of their awareness. Something was watching them, waiting for permission to enter. In the council headquarters, Ambassador James Cole had just landed on Earth when he felt it too. A vast intelligence hovering at the threshold of his consciousness, patient and eternal. Director West appeared on every screen across the planet. Her voice reached every human ear. People of Earth, she said, in a few hours, an alien fleet will arrive to destroy us. We have found a way to survive, but it requires the consent of every human being. You will all feel what I am about to describe. She explained the eternal hunger, the bond it offered, the power it promised. She explained that once accepted, the connection could never be broken. This is not a choice I can make for you, she concluded. But I can tell you this. If we do nothing, we die. Every single one of us. Our children, our families, our entire civilization, gone forever. If we accept this bond, we live. We become something new, something powerful. But we pay a price that can never be measured. She paused, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. I am asking you to choose, all of you, together. The vote was instantaneous. 7 billion minds reaching toward the presence that waited at the edge of their awareness. Some reached with fear, some reached with hope, some reached with desperate courage, but nearly all of them reached. The eternal hunger did not hesitate. It poured through the opening. In reality, a flood of consciousness that spread across the planet in seconds. It touched every human mind, wrapped around every human thought, merged with every human soul. Dr. Nash screamed as power unlike anything he had ever imagined flooded through him. He could feel every atom of his body, could sense the rotation of the earth beneath his feet, could perceive the stars burning millions of light years away. He could also feel something else, a presence inside him, vast and cold and infinitely patient. The eternal hunger was there now, a permanent passenger in his consciousness. Across the world, humanity transformed. People rose from their beds, their eyes glowing with strange light. They walked through walls, floated above the ground, moved objects with their thoughts. Children laughed as they flew through the air. Soldiers wept as they felt their wounds heal in seconds, but they also felt the emptiness. The eternal hunger was not cruel, but it was not warm either. It did not hate humanity, but it did not love them. It simply was a vast and indifferent intelligence that now lived inside every human being. Ambassador Cole stood in the middle of Geneva, watching people drift past him like ghosts. He raised his hand and watched reality bend around his fingers, space itself warping at his command. What have we become? He whispered. The eternal hunger answered in his mind. You have become what you always could have been. You have become infinite. In orbit. The first Council scout ships detected the energy surge from Earth. Their sensors went wild, registering power levels that should have been impossible. The data was transmitted to the approaching fleet. Fleet Commander Thros of the Dominion reviewed the readings with growing alarm. His 4 eyes narrowed as he studied the impossible numbers. "What is happening on that planet?" he demanded. His science officer trembled. "Unknown, Commander. But whatever it is, the humans are now registering power signatures beyond anything in our records. They have become something else. Something our weapons may not be able to stop." Thros felt fear for the first time in his 300 years of life. "Continue the approach," he ordered, his voice uncertain. "We have our orders." But deep down, he knew that something had changed. The prey had become the predator, and the hunters were flying straight into a trap. On Earth, Director West looked up at the stars with eyes that now saw everything. "They are coming," she said softly, "and we will be ready." The transformation was complete. Humanity had paid the price. Now the galaxy would learn what that price had purchased. Fleet Commander Thros stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dominion's Pride, watching Earth grow larger in the viewing screen. 60 warships surrounded him, the most powerful armada the Council had assembled in centuries. Each vessel carried enough firepower to crack a planet's crust and turn its surface to molten glass. "Begin the purification bombardment," he ordered. "Leave nothing alive." The fleet opened fire. Plasma cannons unleashed torrents of superheated energy. Antimatter torpedoes streaked through the void. Singularity bombs tore holes in the fabric of space itself. It was destruction on a scale that few species had ever witnessed, enough devastation to render any world lifeless for 1,000,000 years. The weapons never reached Earth's surface dot from the planet below. Millions of figures rose through the atmosphere. They wore no suits. They carried no ships. They simply flew, propelled by will alone, their bodies surrounded by halos of impossible light. Ambassador James Cole was among them. He felt no cold, despite the vacuum of space. He felt no fear, despite facing the greatest military force in the galaxy. He felt only power, endless and absolute, coursing through every fiber of his being. The bombardment froze in place. Plasma bolts hung motionless in the void. Torpedoes stopped mid-flight. Even the singularities collapsed into nothingness, their devastating potential snuffed out like candle flames. Cole raised his hand, and the weapons turned around. They flew back toward the ships that had fired them. The first wave of explosions tore through the fleet. Ships that had survived 1,000 battles crumpled like paper. Crews that had conquered entire star systems died in seconds, their vessels reduced to expanding clouds of debris. Thros watched in horror as his flagship shuddered under the impact of its own weapons. "Retreat," he screamed. "All ships, retreat immediately." But there was no escape. The transformed humans were everywhere now, surrounding the fleet like wolves circling wounded prey. They did not need weapons. They simply reached out with their minds, and ships began to tear themselves apart. A young woman named Maya, once a nurse from Cairo, discovered she could accelerate time around objects. She looked at a cruiser and willed its structure to age. In seconds, the vessel rusted, crumbled, and dissolved into dust that had taken 1,000 years to form. A construction worker named Thomas found he could unmake matter itself. He touched a destroyer's hull, and the atoms simply separated, the ship fading from existence as if it had never been built. An elderly professor named Ruth realized she could see the future, every possible outcome ranching before her in endless streams of probability. She guided her fellow humans, showing them where to strike, how to move, ensuring that not a single Council weapon found its target. In less than 15 minutes, 60 warships became 60 fields of debris. Fleet Commander Thros was dragged from his dying vessel by hands that passed through solid metal like it was air. He floated in the vacuum, kept alive by a bubble of breathable atmosphere that one of the humans had created around him. Director Helena West appeared before him, her form shimmering with energy that made his sensors scream with impossible readings. "You came to exterminate us," she said, her voice carrying through the void without any visible means of transmission. "You voted to erase our species from existence. All of you. Every member of your precious council." Thros tried to speak, but terror had stolen his voice. "I want you to deliver a message," West continued. "Return to your council. Tell them what happened here. Tell them what we have become." She leaned closer, her transformed eyes burning into his. "And tell them this is only the beginning." She released him into an escape pod and sent it hurtling toward the nearest council relay station. As the pod accelerated away, Thros looked back at Earth through the tiny viewport. The planet was surrounded by millions of glowing figures, a crown of transformed humanity that pulsed with power beyond anything he had ever imagined. "What have we done?" he whispered. "What have we awakened?" On Earth, the humans began to descend back through the atmosphere. They gathered in cities and villages, in forests and deserts, all of them connected by the vast consciousness of the eternal hunger. Ambassador Cole landed in Geneva, where the ruins of the old United Nations building still stood. Around him, other transformed humans arrived, their faces a mixture of wonder and uncertainty. "We won," said Maya, the nurse from Cairo. "We actually won." "Did we?" Cole replied quietly. He could feel the eternal hunger inside him, a presence that was growing stronger with each passing hour. And he could feel something else, a whisper at the edge of the collective consciousness. A hunger that had nothing to do with food or survival, a hunger for more. "They tried to kill us," said Thomas, the construction worker. His voice was hard, his eyes distant. "Every species that voted for our destruction. They all knew what they were doing." "Yes," agreed Ruth, the professor. "They all knew." The whisper grew louder. The eternal hunger was feeding it, amplifying a rage that Cole recognized as deeply human, but also somehow more. "The Council has over 1,000 member species," Maya said slowly. "Thousands of worlds that supported our extinction. Thousands of worlds that should pay for what they tried to do." Thomas finished. Cole felt the agreement ripple through the collective consciousness. Millions of transformed humans, all feeling the same righteous anger, all burning with the same desire for revenge. The eternal hunger purred with satisfaction. Director West materialized beside Cole, her expression troubled. "I can feel it too," she said quietly, so only he could hear. "The anger, the hunger. It does not feel entirely like ours." "Because it is not," Cole replied. "The entity is feeding it, amplifying it, turning our survival instinct into something darker. Can we stop it?" Cole looked at the transformed humans around him. Their eyes glowed with power and fury. Their voices spoke of justice and retribution. They were already planning attacks on council worlds, already imagining the destruction they would bring. "I do not know," he admitted. "I do not know if we even want to stop it anymore." West grabbed his arm. "We have to try. If we give in too, this rage, if we become the monsters they feared, then what was the point of surviving?" Cole wanted to agree. He wanted to fight the darkness growing inside him. But the rage felt so right, so justified. The council had tried to murder his entire species. Why should he feel mercy for them? Above Earth, the debris of the council fleet drifted silently. A warning to the galaxy. A promise of what was to come. And deep within the collective consciousness, the eternal hunger smiled. The first battle was over. But the war for humanity's soul had just begun. The Galactic Council Chamber had never known such terror. Representatives of over 1,000 species screamed accusations, demanded answers, and proposed solutions that ranged from desperate surrender to total war. At the center of it all, Fleet Commander Thros stood before the High Arbiter, his body still trembling from what he had witnessed. "Describe what you saw," the Arbiter commanded. Its crystalline form pulsing with agitation, Thros could barely form words. "They rose from the planet without ships. They stopped our weapons in mid-flight. They tore our fleet apart with their thoughts alone. 60 warships destroyed in minutes. We never even scratched them." The chamber erupted in chaos. Ancient alliances shattered. Species that had been enemies for millennia suddenly found common ground in their shared fear. "We must assemble a larger fleet," shouted the collective voice of the Mintharian hive. 1,000 ships. 10,000 if necessary. "You fool," replied Elder Consul Bremeth of the Stone Lords. "Did you not hear what he said? They stopped singularity bombs with their minds. Numbers will not save us. Then what will?" demanded Ambassador Vorth of the hegemony, his crystalline body flickering with distress. No one had an answer. Far from council space, humanity was already moving. Director Helena West materialized in orbit around the hegemony homeworld, the same species that had led the vote for Earth's destruction. Around her, 10,000 transformed humans appeared from nothing, having crossed light years in the time it took to draw a breath. The hegemony fleet scrambled to respond. 300 warships rose from defensive platforms, their weapons charging with desperate speed. West did not even acknowledge them. She reached out with her mind and found the planet's magnetic field. With a thought, she began to twist it. The world below shuddered. Earthquakes tore across every continent. Volcanoes that had been dormant for millions of years suddenly erupted with devastating force. "Please," came a transmission from the planet's surface. "We surrender. We will do anything you ask. Just stop." West paused. Somewhere deep inside her, a voice whispered that this was enough. They had proven their point. They could show mercy, but the eternal hunger disagreed. "They showed you nitrogen monoxide mercy," it whispered in her mind. "They voted to burn your children. Every life on your world erased without hesitation. Why should you give them what they refused to give you?" The rage surged through her. The injustice of it all, the casual cruelty with which the Council had condemned humanity. The terrified days waiting for the fleet that would end everything. She resumed her assault. Within hours, the hegemony homeworld was gone. 9 billion lives extinguished. A civilization that had existed for 100,000 years, reduced to asteroid fragments. Ambassador Cole watched from a distance, his heart growing heavier with each passing moment. He could feel the satisfaction rippling through the collective consciousness, the primal joy of revenge fulfilled, but he could also feel what they were losing. "Do you remember what it felt like to feel pity?" he asked Maya, who floated beside him. She turned to him, her glowing eyes confused. "Pity? Compassion, mercy, the desire to help others even when they do not deserve it." Maya considered the question for a long moment. "I remember the concepts," she finally said, "but they feel distant now, like memories of someone else's life." Cole felt the same emptiness inside himself. The eternal hunger was not cruel, but it was not kind either. It simply did not understand those emotions, and slowly, gradually, it was erasing them from its human hosts. They were winning the war, but they were losing themselves. Over the following weeks, humanity struck again and again. The Mintharian hive worlds fell in a single day, their collective consciousness shattered by a targeted mental assault. The Stone Lords retreated to their deepest fortresses, only to find that rock and metal offered no protection against beings who could unmake matter itself. Species that had existed since before Earth's sun was born disappeared from the galaxy. Civilizations with histories spanning millions of years were erased in moments. The Council tried everything. They assembled massive fleets that were destroyed before they could fire a single shot. They developed new weapons that had no effect. They sent ambassadors with offers of unconditional surrender that went unanswered. Nothing worked. Dr. Victor Nash, the scientist who had opened Vault Omega, watched the destruction with growing horror. He could feel the eternal hunger's satisfaction growing stronger with each world that burned. This is what it wanted all along, he realized one day as another council species was wiped from existence. It did not bond with us to save us. It bonded with us to use us. He reached out through the collective consciousness, searching for others who felt the same doubt. There were a small minority, who still clung to fragments of their humanity. Cole was among them. So was West, though she fought against her own conscience with diminishing success. Nash gathered them together in the ruins of Antarctica, near the still open gateway to the eternal hunger's dimension. "Look at what we have become," he said. "We have destroyed hundreds of worlds. We have killed trillions of beings. And with each death, we feel less and less. They tried to kill us first," Thomas argued, his eyes burning with cold light. "Yes," Nash agreed. "And if we had only defended ourselves, we would have been justified. But this is not defense. This is extermination. We are doing to them exactly what they tried to do to us." "They deserve it," Maya insisted, but her voice held a note of uncertainty. "Perhaps they do," Nash replied. "But do we deserve to become monsters? Do we deserve to lose everything that makes us human?" The question hung in the air. Through the collective consciousness, millions of transformed humans heard it. Most ignored it, lost in the euphoria of power and the intoxication of revenge. But some listened. Some remembered what they had been before the transformation. Some still held on to fragments of love and mercy and hope. And somewhere deep within the gateway, the eternal hunger sensed a threat to its plans. Director West stepped forward, her face torn by conflicting emotions. "I gave the order to open the vault," she said. "This is my fault." "All of it? No," Cole replied. "The fault belongs to the Council for forcing our hand. But the choice of what we do next, that belongs to us." He turned to face the assembled humans, both physically present and connected through the collective mind. "We can continue down this path. We can burn every world that stood against us. We can make the galaxy fear humanity for all eternity." His voice hardened. "Or we can stop. We can remember who we were. We can choose to be something better than the creatures who tried to destroy us." The eternal hunger roared in protest, its voice thundering through every human mind. "You cannot. Stop. You are mine now. We are one. But for the first time since the transformation." Humanity hesitated. The war for their souls had reached its turning point. The battle that followed was unlike any war humanity had ever fought. It took place not on planets or in space, but within the shared consciousness that connected every transformed human being. Ambassador James Cole stood at the center of the mental battlefield, his will straining against the vast presence of the eternal hunger. Around him, billions of human minds clashed against each other. Those who wanted to continue the destruction, fighting against those who wanted to stop. "You cannot win," the eternal hunger spoke directly into his thoughts. "I am ancient beyond your understanding. I have consumed civilizations older than your entire galaxy. You are nothing but temporary vessels for my will." "We are more than that," Cole replied. "We are human. And humans have always been defined by one thing, the ability to choose." He reached out to the others who shared his vision. Dr. Victor Nash, who had opened the vault. Director Helena West, who had given the order. Maya, who still remembered being a nurse, who healed instead of destroyed. Thomas, who had built things before he learned to unmake them. They combined their wills into a single, focused intention across the collective consciousness. They broadcast a simple message, not words, but memories. Memories of what it felt like to love someone. Memories of holding a child for the first time. Memories of helping a stranger, of forgiving an enemy, of choosing kindness when cruelty would have been easier. The memories spread like fire through dry grass. Transformed humans who had been lost in rage suddenly remembered their families. Warriors who had destroyed entire worlds suddenly recalled the faces of people they had loved. And with those memories came a terrible realization that they had become the very thing they had feared. They had become destroyers, exterminators, monsters. They had paid for their survival with their souls. "No more," West whispered, her voice carrying across the mental landscape. "I will not be this creature any longer." She turned her will inward, searching for the connection that bound her to the eternal hunger. She found it, a thread of alien consciousness, woven through every fiber of her being, and she began to pull it out. The pain was beyond description. It felt like tearing away a piece of her own mind. The power she had gained, the abilities that had made her nearly godlike, all of it was connected to that thread. To remove it meant losing everything. But she did not stop. Others joined her. Nash, Cole, Maya, Thomas. Then hundreds. Then thousands. Then millions. Human after human choosing to reject the gift they had been given. To tear away the alien presence that had made them powerful. The eternal hunger screamed in fury and despair. "You cannot do this without me. You will be weak. The galaxy will destroy you." "Perhaps," Cole replied. "But we will be human when they do." The mental battle reached its climax. Those who wanted to keep their power fought desperately. But they were outnumbered by those who had remembered what it meant to be human. With one final collective effort, humanity pushed. The eternal hunger was torn from their minds, forced back through the gateway in Antarctica, exiled to its dimension between dimensions. The connection shattered. The collective consciousness dissolved. And 7 billion transformed. Humans suddenly found themselves alone in their own heads again. The power was gone. The ability to fly, to reshape matter, to destroy worlds with a thought, all of it vanished in an instant. Humans collapsed across the planet, their bodies suddenly heavy, their minds suddenly quiet. Cole fell to his knees in Geneva, gasping for breath. He felt ordinary, mortal, fragile. He had never been so grateful for anything in his life. But the euphoria was short-lived. As the mental fog cleared, the full weight of what humanity had done crashed down upon them. Hundreds of worlds destroyed. Trillions of lives taken. Entire species erased from existence. Cole wept. Around him, others wept as well. The guilt was overwhelming, a burden that would never fully lift. West found him an hour later, her face aged by grief. "The Council is assembling what remains of their forces," she reported. "They will want justice. They have every right to want it. What do we do?" Cole asked. West looked at the sky, at the stars that humanity had briefly held in its grasp. "We face them. We take responsibility. And we spend the rest of our existence trying to make amends." 6 months later, Cole stood once again in the Galactic Council chamber. The tiers were emptier now, hundreds of seats belonging to species that no longer existed. The representatives who remained watched him with eyes full of hatred, fear, and something that might have been grudging respect. The High Arbiter spoke. "Humanity has committed crimes beyond measure. You have destroyed 417 member civilizations. You have ended lives numbering in the trillions. What defense can you possibly offer?" Cole did not try to defend. He did not make excuses or shift blame. "We offer none," he said simply. "What we did was unforgivable. We know this. We will carry this guilt for as long as our species exists." He paused, gathering himself. "We cannot bring back the dead. We cannot restore what was lost. But we can dedicate ourselves to rebuilding what remains. Every human being, for as long as we live, will work to repair the damage we caused. That is not justice, the arbiter replied. No, Cole agreed. Justice is impossible. There is no punishment that could match our crimes. We can only offer atonement, service. The rest of our existence spent trying to earn forgiveness we know we do not deserve. The council deliberated for 3 days. Many demanded humanity's destruction. Others argued that more death would solve nothing. In the end, they chose neither. Humanity was not forgiven. They were not destroyed. They were bound by treaty to 1,000 years of service, working alongside the species they had nearly exterminated, helping to rebuild civilizations that would never be the same. It was not forgiveness. It was not punishment. It was a chance, nothing more. Cole accepted on behalf of his species. He knew most humans would honor the commitment. They had seen what they could become without their humanity. None of them wanted to see it again. As he left the council chamber, the arbiter stopped him. You had the power to destroy us all, it said quietly. You could have ruled the galaxy as gods. Why did you give it up? Cole considered the question for a long moment. Because some victories are worse than defeat, he finally said. We looked into the darkness and saw ourselves becoming monsters. We chose to be human instead, with all the weakness and mortality that implies. He met the arbiter's alien gaze. That choice cost us everything, but it also saved us. Because in the end, power means nothing if you lose yourself in it. Victory means nothing if you become something you cannot live with. He walked away, toward the shuttle that would carry him back to Earth, back to a species that had touched infinity, and chosen to let it go. They would spend generations atoning. They would never be forgiven. They would carry the memory of their crimes forever, but they would carry it as humans. Flawed, mortal, capable of both terrible evil and profound redemption. The galaxy had witnessed Earth's revenge. And in that witnessing, both humanity and the cosmos had learned the most important lesson any species could learn. The greatest strength was not the power to destroy. It was the courage to stop.